Beneath the azure skies of California's wine country, Napa Valley stands as a canvas of endless dreams. Rows of lush grapevines stretch toward the horizon, their emerald leaves swaying gently in the breeze. This land, revered for its opulence and elegance, whispers tales of triumphs born from toil and love. Yet not all stories that shape this fertile valley begin with glory. Some dreams rise from ashes. This is a story of two souls bound by a land often overlooked. Two individuals from opposite worlds who dared to challenge the norms, push through prejudice, and nurture hope where despair once flourished. It is the tale of Ethan Walker, a black farmer seeking redemption for his family's legacy, and Sophia Bennett, a woman striving to redefine herself amidst the gilded cage of privilege. Their journey unfolds on a forgotten plot of barren land, dismissively called the Dead Zone, a place where both their struggles and aspirations converge. Amid betrayal, sabotage, and the clash of two worlds, their vision of revival will face challenges that test not only their resolve, but the very essence of what it means to believe in second chances. As the first rays of the morning sun kiss the desolate soil, the whispers of an untold story begin to stir. The dream begins now. Ethan Walker adjusted his worn leather hat against the scorching Californian sun. He stood at the edge of a desolate plot of land, his boots pressing into the dry, cracked soil. The wind carried a faint scent of earth and desperation. For others, this land might have been just a scar on Napa Valley's otherwise idyllic visage. But for Ethan, it was more than dirt. It was a chance to rewrite the story of his family's legacy, lost to the systemic injustices that stripped his ancestors of everything. Miles away, Sophia Bennett sat in the plush back seat of a luxury car winding through the valley's sunlit roads. Her father, Richard Bennett, a titan in the wine industry, discussed acquisition plans for the upcoming quarter. But Sophia wasn't listening. Her gaze was fixed on the vineyards they passed, yearning for freedom from the golden shackles of her family's wealth. She dreamt of crafting wines that spoke of individuality and raw, untamed beauty, not the mechanical perfection her family worshipped. Their paths collided at what locals scornfully called the Dead Zone. As Sophia stepped out to assess the land, her father's firm considered worthless, she was struck by the sight of Ethan, his sturdy figure and determined movements contrasting sharply against the barren backdrop. She was captivated not just by his presence, but by the unwavering hope he seemed to carry for this land. Ethan glanced up as Sophia approached, her polished demeanor a stark contrast to his dusty attire. She introduced herself, her curiosity thinly veiled under the guise of professional interest. Ethan's guarded eyes softened slightly as she asked about his vision for the land. "It's not dead," Ethan said, his voice steady. "It's waiting for someone to believe in it." For the first time in years, Sophia found herself intrigued, not by his words alone, but by the conviction behind them. However, their interaction was cut short by the arrival of Richard Bennett, whose sharp glare dismissed Ethan as little more than an obstacle. "Miss Bennett," Richard said coldly, "we have more important sites to evaluate." Sophia hesitated, her father's words tugging at her obedience. But as she turned to leave, she cast one last glance at Ethan, silently promising herself she would return. Ethan knew the road ahead would not be easy. The locals, steeped in generations of bias, eyed him with disdain. The resources he had left were barely enough to begin the groundwork. Yet, he could not abandon the dream that had brought him here, the dream of creating something that would endure beyond him. Sophia, meanwhile, found herself at odds with her family. Her father's relentless pressure to conform weighed heavily, as did the looming shadow of an arranged marriage to Lucas Chambers, a man who saw her as little more than an accessory to his ambitions. Her heart wrestled between duty and rebellion, but as she lay awake that night, the image of Ethan and his unwavering belief in the dead zone refused to leave her mind. The seeds of a partnership were sown, but neither Ethan nor Sophia could foresee the trials that awaited them. In a world that thrived on privilege and prejudice, their journey would be fraught with challenges capable of crushing the dreams of even the most steadfast. But it is often in the most barren lands that the deepest roots take hold. Their story was only just beginning. The morning sun cast a pale glow over the dead zone, a name whispered with derision by the locals. To Ethan Walker, it was a badge of defiance. The land bore the scars of neglect, its soil dry and unyielding, but Ethan saw potential in every crack and crevice. As he paced the perimeter, his hands calloused from days of labor, his mind churned with plans to coax life out of the barren earth. The work was grueling. Without the machinery his neighbors took for granted, Ethan relied on his own strength and ingenuity. He had cleared patches of weeds, dug trenches, and begun experimenting with soil amendments, purchased with the last of his savings. Each blister on his hand was a testament to his determination. Sophia Bennett, meanwhile, couldn't shake the image of Ethan and his resolute demeanor. Days after their first meeting, she found herself driving back to the dead zone under the guise of needing fresh air. Dressed in casual clothes that felt foreign on her tailored frame, she approached Ethan cautiously. He barely looked up from his work, but his measured nod acknowledged her presence. "You're back," he said simply, his voice carrying the faintest hint of curiosity. "I couldn't stop thinking about this place," Sophia admitted, her gaze sweeping over the desolate land. "It deserves more than what people say about it." Ethan paused, leaning on his shovel. "People see what they want to see," he said. "It's easier to write something off than to fix it." Sophia stayed longer than she intended, watching as Ethan worked tirelessly. When he handed her a spade, she hesitated but eventually joined in, awkwardly mimicking his movements. For the first time in years, she felt the satisfaction of tangible effort, a sharp contrast to the hollow victories of her life in high society. Sophia returned home that evening, her hands aching, but her spirit oddly light. Her reverie was interrupted by her father's sharp voice as she stepped into the Bennett estate, an opulent manor perched on the edge of the valley. "Sophia," Richard Bennett said, not bothering to mask his irritation, "you missed the meeting with the vineyard consultants." "I had other plans," she replied, trying to maintain an air of composure. Richard's glare cut through her. "Your plans are irrelevant. The Bennett legacy depends on your cooperation, not your whims." Sophia swallowed her retort, retreating to her room. There, surrounded by the trappings of wealth she had long grown weary of, she thought about Ethan's words. His defiance in the face of adversity resonated with her more than she cared to admit. For Ethan, the nights were quieter, but no less taxing. As he sat on the porch of the small cabin he had rented on the edge of the dead zone, he leafed through old photographs of his family. The farm they had lost in the South was a painful memory, but also the fire that fueled his drive. His father's voice echoed in his mind. "Land doesn't just grow crops, Ethan. It grows stories, legacies. It grows us." Ethan's goal wasn't just to restore the land. It was to honor the sacrifices of those who came before him. Sophia continued to visit the dead zone under the radar. Each time, she worked alongside Ethan, asking questions about the process, marveling at his knowledge of the soil, and absorbing his passion for the craft. One afternoon, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Ethan presented her with a small glass bottle. Inside was a murky liquid, a rudimentary wine he had crafted from foraged grapes. "It's not much," he said almost apologetically, "but it's a start." Sophia took a cautious sip. The taste was raw, unrefined, but beneath the sharpness, she sensed potential. For the first time, she glimpsed what Ethan saw in this land. Not just a vineyard, but a dream worth fighting for. "This isn't just a start," she said, meeting his eyes. "This is something people need to taste." Their connection deepened with each passing day, but neither could fully articulate the emotions brewing beneath the surface. For Sophia, Ethan represented freedom and authenticity. For Ethan, Sophia was a rare ally in a world that had offered him little but resistance. Unbeknownst to Sophia, her visits did not go unnoticed. Lucas Chambers, her fiancé, had grown suspicious of her absences. As a man accustomed to control, Lucas prided himself on maintaining order in his life, and Sophia's unexplained behavior threatened that order. Meanwhile, Ethan faced mounting hostility from the local farming community. Rumors spread that he was squatting on worthless land, a fool chasing an impossible dream. Some whispered that his presence would devalue the surrounding vineyards, while others muttered words laced with racial prejudice. One evening, Ethan returned to his cabin to find his tools scattered and his makeshift greenhouse vandalized. A crude sign was left behind reading, "Go back where you came from." Sophia arrived the next morning to find Ethan surveying the damage, his jaw clenched, but his resolve unshaken. She was horrified, not just by the act itself, but by the stark reminder of the obstacles he faced. "We'll fix this," she said, her voice trembling with determination. Ethan shook his head. "This isn't about fixing," he said. "It's about showing them that I'm not going anywhere." Sophia's admiration for Ethan deepened. Despite the odds stacked against him, he refused to yield. And for the first time, she realized that his fight was becoming her fight too. As the chapter drew to a close, Sophia stood at the edge of the dead zone, gazing out at the barren expanse. In her hand, she held a handful of soil Ethan had pressed into her palm, a reminder of the potential they were nurturing together. "Do you really think we can turn this into something?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan's reply was steady, unwavering. "I don't think. I know." Unbeknownst to them, their partnership was already taking root, quietly defying the forces that sought to keep them apart. But as their bond grew stronger, so too did the challenges that loomed on the horizon. Sophia's decision to partner with Ethan came like the first drop of rain on parched soil. Quiet, yet transformative. After her latest visit to the dead zone, she returned home with a determination that eclipsed her fear of her father's disapproval. The land Ethan cherished wasn't just a barren expanse. It was a symbol of defiance, a chance to craft something unique and meaningful. She couldn't let it go to waste. One evening, Sophia approached Ethan as he repaired a damaged section of the fence that bordered his land. She held a small leather-bound notebook, its pages filled with notes on viticulture she had secretly compiled over the years. "I want to help," she said, holding out the notebook. Ethan glanced at her skeptically. "Help how? Your family's money, though. Influence?" Sophia shook her head. "Not money, not influence, knowledge, ideas. I've been studying wine production for years, even if my father doesn't think I'm capable. I know I can help you." Ethan hesitated, weighing her words against the risks. Trust was a fragile thing in his world, often broken by betrayal or indifference. But there was something earnest in Sophia's eyes that made him believe she meant what she said. "If you're serious about this," he said finally, "you're in it for the long haul. No halfway." "I wouldn't be here if I wasn't," Sophia replied, And just like that, a partnership was forged, fragile but full of promise. The days that followed brought Sophia and Ethan closer together. Each morning, Sophia arrived at the dead zone, dressed in work clothes that bore little resemblance to her usual polished attire. Together, they mapped out the vineyard, marked potential planting sites, and tested the soil for nutrient deficiencies. Their conversations began with business, but often veered into more personal territory. Sophia shared stories of her childhood, of growing up under her father's shadow, longing to forge her own path. Ethan listened, occasionally offering a wry comment that made her laugh despite herself. In return, Ethan opened up about his family and the land they had lost. He spoke of his father's dream to create something lasting, a dream that now rested on Ethan's shoulders. Sophia was struck by the weight he carried and his refusal to let it crush him. One evening, as they sat on a makeshift bench overlooking the vineyard, Sophia confessed, "You make me feel like I can finally breathe, like I'm not just some puppet in my father's show." Ethan turned to her, his expression soft but serious. "You've got more fight in you than you think, Sophia. You just need to aim it in the right direction." Their connection grew deeper with every shared glance, every quiet moment in the vineyard. Though neither spoke of it openly, the undercurrent of attraction between them was undeniable. While Sophia and Ethan worked to bring the vineyard to life, external forces began to conspire against them. Lucas Chambers, Sophia's fiancé, was growing increasingly suspicious of her absences. Accustomed to having his way, Lucas found Sophia's independence not only perplexing, but infuriating. He hired a private investigator to follow her, hoping to uncover the truth behind her mysterious behavior. Meanwhile, the hostility Ethan faced from the local farming community escalated. Anonymous notes left on his cabin door carried thinly veiled threats. "This isn't your land. Don't forget that." Tools disappeared overnight, and once, a truck barreled down the dirt road, narrowly missing Ethan as he worked near the edge of the field. Sophia was horrified when Ethan told her about the incident. "You have to go to the police," she urged. Ethan shook his head. "The police don't care about people like me. Reporting it would just make things worse." Sophia's frustration boiled over. "You can't fight this alone, Ethan. Let me help." "You already are," he said, his voice calm but firm. "But we've got to be smart about this. We don't just fight back. We outlast them." One afternoon, as Sophia and Ethan worked on an experimental irrigation system, a black SUV pulled up to the edge of the dead zone. The driver stepped out, and Sophia's stomach twisted in recognition. It was Lucas. "What's going on here?" Lucas demanded, his gaze darting between Sophia and Ethan. Sophia stepped forward, her heart pounding. "Lucas, this isn't your business. It is my business when my fiancé is sneaking around with—" Lucas stopped short, his words hanging in the air like a toxic cloud. His eyes narrowed at Ethan. "Whatever this is, it ends now." Ethan's posture remained calm, but his eyes burned with quiet defiance. "This land doesn't belong to you, or anyone else who thinks they can control it, or her." Lucas took a threatening step forward, but Sophia held her ground. "I'm not yours to control, Lucas. If you can't accept that, then maybe you never really knew me." The confrontation ended with Lucas retreating, his face red with fury. But as he drove away, Sophia knew the matter was far from over. Lucas wasn't the kind of man to let go easily, and his actions would only grow more desperate. As the sun set over the dead zone, Ethan and Sophia stood side by side, watching the sky burn with hues of orange and red. The vineyard, still in its infancy, stretched before them, a testament to their resilience and shared vision. "I won't let him ruin this," Sophia said, her voice resolute. I won't let anyone ruin this. Ethan nodded, his jaw set. We've got a long road ahead, but if we stick together, we can make it. Unbeknownst to them, Lucas was already plotting his next move. The battle for the vineyard was only beginning, and the stakes were higher than either of them could have imagined. The serenity of the dead zone was short-lived. Lucas, furious after his confrontation with Sophia and Ethan, began leveraging his influence to undermine their efforts. He used his connections with the local farmers and his financial clout to stir resentment. Whispers of outsiders stealing opportunities and threats to tradition circulated through the community. One morning, Ethan woke to find the vineyard's irrigation pipes slashed. The cuts were deliberate, clean enough to suggest expertise. The damage set their progress back by weeks, leaving Ethan furious and Sophia deeply shaken. We should call the authorities, Sophia insisted, as they surveyed the damage. Ethan's jaw tightened. And tell them what? That someone doesn't like what we're doing here? That won't get us anywhere. Sophia placed a hand on his arm. We can't keep letting them win, Ethan. If we don't stand up to them, they'll just keep pushing. Ethan sighed, the weight of her words pressing down on him. Standing up isn't the hard part, Sophia. Surviving it is. Lucas, meanwhile, took his vendetta to the Bennett estate. Over dinner with Sophia's family, he painted Ethan as a con artist and accused Sophia of jeopardizing the family's reputation. Do you even realize what he's doing? Lucas sneered. He's using you, Sophia. And when he's done, he'll leave you to deal with the mess. Sophia's father, Richard Bennett, sat at the head of the table, his expression unreadable. Is this true, Sophia? He asked, his voice cold and measured. Are you really involving yourself with this farmer? Sophia met her father's gaze, her heart pounding. I'm not involving myself with anyone, Father. I'm building something that matters. Something that matters? Richard's voice rose, a rare display of emotion. Our name, our legacy, that's what matters. And you're throwing it away for what? A patch of dirt? It's not just dirt. Sophia's voice cracked with frustration. It's a chance to create something real, something that isn't controlled by your money or your expectations. Richard leaned back, his face hardening. You're making a mistake, Sophia. And mistakes in this family come with consequences. Sophia left the table with her head held high, but the weight of her father's words lingered. The cost of her defiance was growing, and she knew she wasn't prepared for the fallout. As tensions rose, the attacks on the vineyard became more brazen. One night, a group of locals trespassed on Ethan's land, tearing down the fragile trellises that supported the young vines. Ethan arrived in time to scare them off, but the damage was done. Margaret Hayes, the retired agricultural scientist who had become one of their closest allies, was the first to arrive the next morning. She examined the ruined trellises with a critical eye. They're trying to break you, she said, her voice low but steady. And if you let them see you waver, they'll succeed. Ethan's hands clenched into fists. They can destroy the vines, but they can't destroy the land. We'll rebuild. Sophia joined them, her face pale but determined. We'll do more than rebuild. We'll show them that no matter what they throw at us, we won't back down. Margaret and James, a former sommelier with a passion for mentoring young winemakers, quickly became integral to Ethan and Sophia's efforts. Margaret brought technical expertise, helping to fortify the vineyard against future attacks. James, with his network of connections, began spreading the word about the unique wine Ethan and Sophia were crafting. Their small circle of support began to grow, bolstered by locals who admired their resilience. Families who had once been skeptical now offered tools and labor, inspired by the couple's determination. One evening, as the group gathered around a fire pit to discuss their next steps, James raised a glass. "To resilience," he said, "and to proving that sometimes the underdogs win." Ethan smiled faintly, but his mind was elsewhere. For every person who supported them, there were two who sought their downfall. The fight was far from over. Lucas's persistence reached its breaking point when he cornered Sophia at a local charity event. His polished exterior masked the anger simmering beneath the surface. "You've embarrassed me for the last time," Lucas hissed. "If you don't end this nonsense with that farmer, I'll make sure neither of you has a place in this town." Sophia's voice was steady, but her words cut like steel. "This isn't about you, Lucas. It's never been about you. And if you think you can control me the way my father does, you're mistaken." Lucas grabbed her arm, his grip firm. "You'll regret this, Sophia." She pulled away, her eyes blazing with defiance. "The only thing I regret is not standing up to you sooner." As Lucas stormed out, Sophia felt a wave of relief and terror wash over her. She had burned a bridge that could never be rebuilt, and she knew Lucas wouldn't go quietly. The challenges Ethan and Sophia faced were relentless, but they refused to be broken. Together, they began to rebuild the vineyard, one vine at a time. Every setback only strengthened their resolve. Every act of sabotage only deepened their commitment to the dream they shared. One afternoon, as they worked side by side, Ethan paused and looked at Sophia. "You know, this isn't just about the vineyard anymore," he said. Sophia nodded. "I know. It's about proving that we belong, that we can create something no one else can take away." Ethan's gaze softened. "Then let's make it happen. Together." The sun dipped below the horizon, casting the vineyard in a warm golden glow. The path ahead was uncertain, but for the first time, they felt a glimmer of hope. Their roots were growing deeper, stronger, ready to withstand whatever storms lay ahead. The air was heavy with anticipation as the first clusters of grapes were carefully clipped from the vines. It wasn't much, just enough for a few barrels of wine, but to Ethan and Sophia, it felt monumental. This was proof that the dead zone wasn't a barren wasteland. It was fertile ground for hope and transformation. Margaret supervised the harvest, her hands steady as she guided the workers through the process. "These grapes are survivors," she said, holding up a plump cluster. "They've withstood everything nature and people have thrown at them." Ethan smiled faintly, the weight of the past months etched on his face. "Let's hope their resilience carries over into the wine." Sophia joined him, wiping sweat from her brow. "It will. This is just the beginning." The small harvest was pressed and fermented in a repurposed barn that served as their makeshift winery. The air filled with the rich, tangy aroma of crushed grapes, a smell that carried the promise of something extraordinary. News of the vineyard's first harvest spread quickly through the small Napa Valley town, sparking a mix of reactions. Supporters of Ethan and Sophia celebrated their perseverance, seeing the vineyard as a symbol of resilience and innovation. But others, led by Lucas Chambers, were less impressed. "They're making a mockery of this valley," Lucas sneered during a town hall meeting. "This isn't wine country. It's a sideshow." Lucas's words stung, but they also galvanized Ethan and Sophia's allies. Margaret organized a community gathering at the vineyard, inviting locals to tone the experimental wine. The event drew a modest crowd, many of whom were curious about the unconventional blend. James, the sommelier, took the lead, pouring glasses and sharing the story behind the wine. "This isn't just a drink," he told the gathering. "It's a testament to what can happen when you refuse to give up. The wine's flavor was raw, unrefined, but it carried a complexity that intrigued even the most skeptical tasters. A small-time wine critic in attendance scribbled furiously in his notebooks, muttering words like promising and unique. That evening, as the gathering wound down, Ethan stood on a makeshift stage to address the crowd. His voice was steady but filled with emotion. When I first set foot on this land, people told me it was a waste of time, that nothing could grow here. But I saw something different. I saw potential, not just in the land, but in the people willing to believe in it. He paused, scanning the faces in the crowd. This vineyard isn't just about making wine. It's about proving that even in the hardest conditions, something beautiful can grow. And that's what I want every bottle of our wine to represent. The audience erupted in applause, and for the first time, Ethan felt a glimmer of acceptance from the community. But he also knew that the road ahead was still fraught with challenges. As the vineyard's reputation began to grow, so did the hostility from those who opposed it. Lucas doubled down on his efforts to discredit Ethan and Sophia, spreading rumors that their success was built on deceit and manipulation. Sophia's father, Richard Bennett, wasn't far behind. He summoned her to the family estate for a stern conversation. "This vineyard nonsense has gone far enough," Richard said, pacing the length of his study. "You're embarrassing the family." Sophia stood her ground. "I'm not embarrassing anyone. I'm building something real, something that matters to me." Richard's expression darkened. "And what happens when it all falls apart? Do you think these people will stand by you? Do you think that farmer will protect you?" Sophia's voice was calm but firm. "Ethan isn't just a farmer. He's a visionary, and I won't let you or anyone else take that away from him. Or from me." Richard shook his head, his frustration evident. "You're making a mistake, Sophia, and I won't be here to clean it up." Despite the rising tensions, Ethan and Sophia organized a harvest celebration at the vineyard. It was a modest affair, with homemade decorations and simple food, but the atmosphere was electric, with hope and determination. Margaret and James worked tirelessly to ensure the event went smoothly. Local musicians played upbeat tunes, and children danced between the rows of vines. For one evening, the troubles that had plagued the vineyard seemed to melt away. Sophia took the stage to thank everyone for their support. "This vineyard isn't just Ethan's dream or mine," she said. "It's a shared dream, a reminder that when we come together, we can create something truly extraordinary." Ethan joined her, raising a glass. "To resilience," he said, his voice strong and clear, "and to proving that even in the toughest times, we can rise above." The crowd cheered, their voices mingling with the music and laughter. But as the celebration continued, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that their fight was far from over. Late that night, after the guests had gone, and the vineyard was quiet, Ethan and Sophia sat together under the stars. The celebration had been a success, but the shadow of Lucas's threats loomed large. Sophia broke the silence. "Do you think we'll ever really be accepted here?" Ethan stared out at the vineyard, his expression thoughtful. "Acceptance isn't what matters. Respect is, and we'll earn it, one bottle at a time." Sophia leaned her head against his shoulder. "Whatever happens, we'll face it together." Unbeknownst to them, Lucas was already plotting his next move. The vineyard's success had only deepened his resolve to bring them down, and his next act would test their resilience like never before. The vineyard lay quiet, under a starlit sky, the calm deceptive. It was past midnight when the first spark lit the dry grass near the barn. Within moments, the spark turned into flames, licking hungrily at the wooden structure. By the time Ethan and Sophia were awakened by frantic knocks on their doors, The fire was raging. "Ethan!" Margaret's voice was frantic as she banged on his door. "The barn is on fire. The vineyard. Everything. It's burning." Ethan scrambled out of bed, grabbing his boots and rushing outside. The sight before him was devastating. Orange flames devouring the barn, their glow illuminating the rows of vines that stood perilously close. Sophia arrived moments later, her face pale. "We have to stop it. We can't let it spread." Ethan nodded, already shouting orders to the small group of workers who had gathered. "Get the hoses. Use the water barrels. We need to contain it before it reaches the vines." For hours, they fought the fire with everything they had. Sophia's dress was soaked, her hands blistered from hauling buckets of water. Ethan's face was streaked with soot, his voice hoarse from shouting. The community began to trickle in, some bringing tools, others simply offering their strength. James, the former sommelier, arrived with a fire extinguisher in each hand. "Where do you need me?" "Focus on the barn," Ethan directed. "We need to keep the flames from spreading to the vines." Margaret coordinated the effort, her calm demeanor cutting through the chaos. "Keep the water on the perimeters. If we lose the barn, so be it. But we can't lose the vineyard." By dawn, the fire was finally under control. The barn was reduced to charred rubble, but the vineyard had been spared, just barely. Smoke hung heavy in the air as the exhausted group surveyed the damage. Sophia sank to the ground, her head in her hands. "This can't be happening," she whispered. "Everything we've worked for." Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder, his grip firm despite the exhaustion in his eyes. "We'll rebuild. We've done it before, and we'll do it again." Margaret approached, her expression grim. "This wasn't an accident, Ethan. Someone wanted this to happen." Sophia's head snapped up. "Lucas," she said, her voice filled with anger and certainty. "It has to be him." Ethan frowned, his jaw tightening. "We don't have proof. Not yet." The fire sent shockwaves through the community. Supporters rallied around Ethan and Sophia, offering tools, labor, and financial donations to help them rebuild. However, the divide in the town grew starker. Whispers of suspicion and blame filled the air. At the local diner, a group of farmers debated the incident. "Serves them right for trying to turn a wasteland into a vineyard," one muttered, earning murmurs of agreement from his companions. But others saw the fire as a turning point. "If we let this go," said Margaret during a community meeting, "we're sending a message that intimidation, and sabotage are acceptable. Is that the kind of place we want Napa Valley to be?" Her words struck a chord, galvanizing a small but determined group to stand by Ethan and Sophia. Together, they began the arduous process of clearing the rubble and replanting the scorched sections of the vineyard. In the days following the fire, Sophia stumbled across a discarded canister of accelerant near the vineyard's edge. She brought it to Ethan, her hands trembling. "This is proof," she said. "We need to take this to the authorities." Ethan hesitated, his mind racing. "If we accuse Lucas without solid evidence linking him directly, it could backfire. We need to be strategic." Sophia's eyes burned with determination. "Then we find more evidence. We expose him for what he is." The fire, though devastating, brought Ethan and Sophia closer together. Their shared grief and determination created a bond that felt unbreakable. One evening, as they worked side by side to replant a section of the vineyard, Sophia paused, her gaze meeting Ethan's. "Why do you keep fighting?" she asked softly. "After everything? Why not just walk away?" Ethan smiled faintly, his hands cradling a vine, as if it were a fragile treasure. "Because walking away means letting them win. And this land, it's more than just dirt and grapes. It's proof that we can take something broken and make it whole again. Sophia nodded, her heart swelling with admiration. You're right. We can't give up. Not now, not ever. Margaret organized a fundraiser at the local community center, inviting supporters to contribute to the vineyard's recovery. The event was modest but heartfelt, featuring a slideshow of the vineyard's journey and a heartfelt speech from Ethan. This vineyard represents more than just wine, he told the crowd. It represents resilience, hope, and the power of community. With your help, we can rebuild and create something even stronger than before. The fundraiser raised enough money to replace some of the lost equipment, but the road ahead remained daunting. Still, the event gave Ethan and Sophia a renewed sense of purpose. As the community rallied around them, Lucas watched from the shadows, his anger festering. The fire had been meant to break them, but instead, it seemed to make them stronger. He clenched his fists, vowing to take more drastic measures. In a dimly lit office, Lucas met with a shadowy figure, sliding an envelope across the desk. I want this done right, he said, his voice cold. No mistakes this time. The figure nodded, a sinister smile playing at his lips. Consider it handled. The smoldering remains of the barn cast a shadow over Ethan's land. Yet amidst the charred wood and blackened soil, there was movement. By dawn, members of the community trickled in, some carrying tools, others bringing food and supplies. The resilience of a few sparked a movement that would soon grow into an unstoppable force. Margaret Hayes stood at the center of it all, clipboard in hand, directing volunteers with the precision of a general. We need to clear the debris first. James, take a group to the south edge and start rebuilding the fencing. Everyone else, we need to focus on the soil. It's still salvageable. Ethan, leaning heavily on a rake, watched in awe as neighbors who had once kept their distance now worked side by side. Even Sophia, with her blistered hands and ash-streaked face, managed a small smile. Look at them, she whispered, standing next to Ethan. They believe in us. Ethan nodded, his voice quiet but resolute. And we won't let them down. The fire had acted as a catalyst, uniting even the most skeptical members of the town. Farmers who had once dismissed Ethan's ambitions now arrived with tractors and spare parts. Bakers from the local market donated loaves of bread and pastries to sustain the workers. Even the reclusive widow from down the lane appeared with an armful of blankets for the cold nights. Sophia marveled at the transformation. It's like they've finally realized that we're all in this together. Margaret approached with a grim smile. Not everyone, she cautioned. Lucas is still out there, and I doubt he's taking this lightly. Sophia's smile faded, replaced by determination. Let him try. We're stronger than he thinks. A week after the fire, amidst the chaos of rebuilding, Ethan called for a moment of pause. He stood before the volunteers, a small vine in his hands, its roots bound in burlap. This, he said, his voice steady, is more than just a plant. It's a promise. To ourselves, to this land, and to everyone who's believed in us. Sophia joined him, holding a small spade. Together they planted the vine in the center of the vineyard, its fragile leaves trembling in the breeze. The crowd erupted into applause, a symbolic gesture of hope that resonated deeply. Sophia found herself at the forefront of the effort, not just as Ethan's partner, but as a leader in her own right. She spoke at town meetings, rallied support on social media, and even confronted skeptics in person. At one particularly contentious meeting, a local farmer named Carl stood up, his arms crossed. Why should we help you? What's in it for the rest of us? Sophia's response was firm but compassionate. This isn't just about us, she said, her voice carrying through the room. It's about proving that this land and this community can overcome anything. Helping us means helping all of Napa Valley. Her words struck a chord, and by the end of the meeting, even Carl had agreed to lend his tractor for the rebuilding efforts. The first phase of rebuilding culminated in a small celebration hosted by Margaret at the community center. Tables were laden with homemade dishes, and the atmosphere buzzed with a newfound sense of unity. Ethan stood to speak, his voice thick with emotion. "I can't thank you all enough for what you've done. This vineyard isn't just mine, it's ours, and together, we're going to make it thrive." The crowd cheered, their applause a testament to the bonds that had been forged through adversity. Amidst the chaos, Ethan and Sophia found moments of quiet connection. One evening, as they worked late into the night, Ethan handed Sophia a cup of coffee, his fingers brushing against hers. "You've changed a lot," he said, his eyes searching hers. Sophia smiled, her gaze steady. "So have you." The tension that had been building between them finally broke as Ethan leaned in, their lips meeting in a kiss that felt both inevitable and transformative. It wasn't just a moment of passion. It was a promise of partnership, both personal and professional. Despite the progress, the specter of Lucas loomed large. Rumors swirled that he was planning something, and the sense of unease grew with each passing day. Margaret voiced what everyone was thinking during a strategy meeting. "We need to be prepared. Lucas won't stop until he's taken everything from us." Ethan nodded, his jaw tight. "Let him come. We'll be ready." Sophia placed a hand on his arm, her expression fierce. "We're not just defending a vineyard. We're defending everything we stand for." As the weeks turned into months, the vineyard began to show signs of life once more. The vines, though young, stood resilient against the winter chill. The community's efforts had transformed the land, and with it, the hearts of those who had doubted. One day, as Ethan and Sophia walked the rows of vines, they paused to admire the progress. "Do you think we'll make it?" Sophia asked, her voice tinged with uncertainty. Ethan took her hand, his grip firm. "We already have." As the chapter closed, Lucas watched from his estate, a glass of wine in hand. His face was a mask of rage as he surveyed the reports from his informants. "They think they've won," he muttered to himself, "but they have no idea what's coming." In the distance, a storm brewed on the horizon, a harbinger of the battles yet to come. The vineyard thrived once more, but a sense of unease lingered like a shadow over the celebration of progress. Ethan and Sophia had poured every ounce of their strength into rebuilding, but they couldn't shake the feeling that Lucas's silence was the calm before a storm. Margaret Hayes, sharp-eyed and ever vigilant, began noticing discrepancies in their supply deliveries. Tools went missing, and shipments arrived damaged or incomplete. "Something's off," she muttered during a late-night meeting in Ethan's modest farmhouse kitchen. Sophia, sipping on a mug of tea, frowned. "You think Lucas is behind this?" Margaret set her clipboard down with a resolute thud. "I'd bet my vineyard gloves on it." Sophia decided to investigate. Disguising herself in a plain jacket and cap, she followed a trail of rumors to a dilapidated storage facility on the outskirts of town. The air was thick with the stench of mildew and oil, and the distant hum of machinery hinted at illicit activity. Inside, she spotted one of Lucas's known associates unloading crates stamped with the Bennett family crest. Her heart raced as she snapped a few photos with her phone, careful not to make a sound, but the creak of a loose floorboard gave her away. "Who's there?" a gruff voice demanded. Sophia froze, ducking behind a stack of barrels as heavy boots approached. She held her breath, her pulse pounding in her ears, until the footsteps retreated. When she finally slipped out of the building, her determination had hardened into steel. "We have proof now," she whispered to herself. Back at the vineyard, Sophia and Ethan pored over the photos she had taken. The evidence was damning. Shipments intended for their vineyard were being rerouted to Lucas's estate, and it was clear he was using his influence to undermine their efforts. Sophia couldn't wait any longer. She marched into the Bennett family mansion, the ornate marble floors echoing with the sound of her heels. Her father, Richard Bennett, looked up from his leather armchair, a cigar smoldering between his fingers. "Do you have any idea what Lucas is doing?" she demanded, her voice trembling with anger. Richard's expression darkened. "You're speaking out of turn, Sophia." "No," she shot back. "You are. You're letting him destroy everything Ethan and I have worked for. And for what? To save face with the Chambers family?" Her father's silence was deafening, but the glint in his eye told her she had struck a nerve. That night, Ethan and Sophia's vineyard became the target of another attack. This time, vandals slashed irrigation lines and uprooted freshly planted vines. The damage wasn't just physical, it was psychological. "This isn't just sabotage," Ethan said grimly, surveying the destruction at sunrise. "It's war." The community rallied once more, but the repeated setbacks began to take their toll. Sophia's fiery speeches couldn't erase the doubt creeping into the minds of their supporters. Were they fighting a losing battle? Determined to turn the tide, Margaret reached out to an old friend in law enforcement, Detective Elena Vargas. Together, they began piecing together a case against Lucas, tracing his illegal activities back to years of shady deals and corporate fraud. "The Elena found something big," Margaret told Ethan and Sophia during a late-night strategy meeting. "Lucas has been laundering money through shell companies tied to your father's businesses." Sophia's stomach churned. "If this comes out, it could destroy my family." Ethan placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We'll handle it together. No more secrets." Sophia's resolve was tested when her father summoned her for a private meeting. In his study, surrounded by shelves of leather-bound books and family portraits, he made his position clear. "Drop this vendetta against Lucas," Richard demanded. "If you don't, I'll cut you off. No more funds, no more safety net." Sophia met his gaze, unflinching. "You think you can scare me into submission? I don't need your money or your approval. What I'm building with Ethan is worth more than all of this." Her father's expression softened for a moment, but he quickly masked it with a cold smile. "You'll regret this." Despite the setbacks, the community's support began to solidify once more. Margaret's fundraiser brought in enough money to repair the irrigation system, and James the sommelier hosted a wine-tasting event that attracted new investors. Sophia, now a seasoned speaker, addressed the crowd at the fundraiser. "This vineyard isn't just about grapes or wine," she said, her voice ringing with conviction. "It's about resilience, about standing together against those who would tear us apart. And with your help, we can show them that we won't back down." The audience erupted into applause, their renewed enthusiasm lighting a fire in the hearts of Ethan and Sophia. Elena's investigation finally bore fruit. She uncovered a paper trail leading directly to Lucas, implicating him in not only the sabotage, but also a network of corruption that extended far beyond the vineyard. The moment of reckoning came when Elena presented her findings at a town hall meeting. The room buzzed with shock as Lucas, seated smugly near the back, realized the walls were closing in. "This isn't over," he hissed as he stormed out. But the evidence was undeniable. The community rallied behind Ethan and Sophia, their support stronger than ever. As the chapter closed, Lucas retreated to his estate, his mind racing with thoughts of revenge. He poured himself a glass of wine, swirling it idly as he stared into the flickering flames of his fireplace. "They think they've won," he muttered to himself, "but they haven't seen the last of me." Meanwhile, at the vineyard, Ethan and Sophia shared a quiet moment under the stars. The vines, though scarred from the attacks, stood tall against the night sky, a testament to their resilience. "We're not just rebuilding a vineyard," Ethan said, his voice steady. "We're building something they can't take away." Sophia smiled, her fingers intertwined with his. "And we're doing it together." The vineyard buzzed with activity as Ethan and Sophia dove headfirst into a new phase of their journey. Their focus shifted from mere survival to creating something truly groundbreaking. Margaret Hayes, ever the optimist, suggested they explore eco-friendly farming methods. "This land has given us a second chance," Margaret said one crisp morning, her boots crunching over the frost-laden soil. "Let's make sure it thrives for generations." Ethan nodded thoughtfully. "What do you have in mind?" Margaret outlined a plan to introduce sustainable practices, including drip irrigation, organic fertilizers, and the use of cover crops to enrich the soil. Sophia's eyes lit up as the idea took shape. "We could turn this vineyard into a model for sustainable winemaking," she said, her voice brimming with excitement. "Not just wine, but a message, a legacy." Ethan and Sophia poured their creativity into crafting a signature wine, one that would embody their journey and the resilience of their vineyard. After countless nights of experimentation and blending, they landed on a bold, full-bodied red with hints of blackberry, vanilla, and a touch of spice. Sophia held up a glass, studying the rich crimson hue as sunlight filtered through the liquid. "Phoenix blend," she murmured, "rising from the ashes, just like us." Ethan raised his glass in a toast. "To the future." The first batch of Phoenix blend was bottled with care, each label bearing an image of a phoenix soaring above a vineyard. The community, now fully invested in their success, eagerly awaited its debut. The vineyard's reputation began to grow as word spread about their innovative practices and unique wine. A local eco-conscious magazine featured an article on their efforts, dubbing them Napa Valley's Rising Stars. Investors started to take notice, and orders for Phoenix Blend poured in. Sophia worked tirelessly to promote their brand, attending wine expos and networking events. At one such event, she caught the attention of Victoria Long, a renowned wine critic known for her discerning palate. "I've heard whispers about your Phoenix blend," Victoria said, swirling the wine in her glass. "Let's see if it lives up to the hype." Sophia held her breath as Victoria took a sip. The critic's face remained neutral for a moment before breaking into a smile. "Impressive. Bold but not overbearing. It tells a story." Sophia beamed. "That's exactly what we hoped for." The vineyard's success had a ripple effect on the community. Ethan and Sophia began hosting workshops to teach sustainable farming techniques, drawing farmers from across the region. James, the sommelier, took the lead in training local winemakers on blending techniques, while Margaret organized a mentorship program for young farmers. The vineyard became a hub of activity, its influence extending far beyond its borders. Ethan stood at the edge of the vineyard one evening, watching as the setting sun bathed the rows of vines in golden light. "This is what we dreamed of," he said softly. Sophia joined him, slipping her arm through his. "And it's only the beginning." But not everyone celebrated their success. Lucas Chambers, now stripped of his influence and reeling from his public disgrace, simmered with rage. He retreated to his estate, plotting his next move. "They've humiliated me," Lucas snarled to his remaining associates. I won't let them win. His plan began to take shape, a final desperate attempt to reclaim his power and destroy everything Ethan and Sophia had built. Meanwhile, Ethan and Sophia received an invitation to the prestigious Napa Valley Wine Competition. The event, held annually, was a chance for winemakers to showcase their finest creations and gain international recognition. Sophia hesitated as she read the letter. Do you think we're ready for this? Ethan smiled, his confidence unwavering. We've faced worse odds before. Let's show them what we're made of. The announcement of their participation sent waves through the community. Support poured in from all sides, with neighbors offering to help prepare for the competition. As the competition approached, tensions within the vineyard reached a boiling point. The pressure to succeed weighed heavily on Ethan and Sophia, leading to moments of friction. During one late-night discussion about their presentation, Ethan snapped, Why does everything have to be perfect? We're already doing the best we can. Sophia's eyes flashed with frustration. Because this isn't just about us, Ethan. It's about proving to everyone that we belong here. The argument left them both shaken, but it also reminded them of the stakes. They reconciled the next morning, stronger for having faced the cracks in their partnership. The Napa Valley Wine Competition was a dazzling affair, with rows of booths showcasing the finest wines from the region. Ethan and Sophia's modest setup stood in stark contrast to the elaborate displays of their competitors. As the judges made their rounds, Ethan's hands trembled with nerves. But when Sophia spoke to the panel, her voice steady and confident, he felt a surge of pride. This wine represents more than a vineyard, Sophia said, presenting the Phoenix blend. It represents resilience, innovation, and the power of community. The judges tasted in silence, their expressions unreadable. Finally, the head judge nodded. Impressive, truly impressive. As the event drew to a close, Ethan received an anonymous message. Watch your back. Lucas isn't finished yet. The warning sent a chill down his spine, but he resolved not to let fear overshadow their victory. That night, the vineyard celebrated their success with a quiet toast under the stars. To resilience, Sophia said, raising her glass. To the future, Ethan replied, his eyes fixed on the horizon. Lucas's shadow loomed over their celebration, a reminder that their journey was far from over. But as Ethan and Sophia stood amidst the vines they had nurtured back to life, their determination burned brighter than ever. This isn't just about winning, Ethan said. It's about building something that lasts. And we will, Sophia replied, her voice filled with quiet strength. No matter what comes next, the morning of the Napa Valley Wine Competition dawned with a crisp, invigorating air. Ethan and Sophia, dressed in their best, stood side by side in the bustling venue. The vineyard had never felt so alive with hope and purpose. Margaret Hayes and James were already at their booth, carefully arranging bottles of Phoenix blend. This is it, Sophia murmured, gripping Ethan's hand tightly. Today, everything changes. Ethan nodded, though his stomach churned with nerves. Let's make it count. As the day progressed, their booth attracted a steady stream of visitors. Each sip of Phoenix blend brought murmurs of approval and admiration. A journalist from Wine Enthusiast lingered at their table, jotting down notes and praising their innovative approach to winemaking. You've captured something rare here, he said, swirling the wine in his glass. It's not just a drink, it's a story. Sophia smiled, her confidence building with each compliment. That's exactly what we hoped for. The attention was exhilarating, but it also brought scrutiny. Across the room, Lucas Chambers watched with cold fury, his presence a dark cloud on an otherwise bright day. The judging panel was the centerpiece of the event. Renowned critics and sommeliers tasted each wine with meticulous care, their expressions inscrutable. When it was finally time for Phoenix Blend to take the stage, the tension was palpable. Sophia stepped forward, her voice clear and steady. Phoenix Blend represents more than a vineyard. It's the resilience of a land and its people, reborn from ashes. We hope you taste not just the flavors, but the journey. The judges sipped in silence. Seconds felt like hours, as they exchanged glances, whispering among themselves. Finally, the head judge spoke. Exceptional. Bold yet balanced. A true testament to innovation and dedication. When the winners were announced, the room erupted in applause, as Phoenix Blend was named Best Emerging Wine. Ethan and Sophia embraced, their faces alight with joy and disbelief. "We did it," Ethan whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "This is just the beginning," Sophia replied, her eyes shining. Their victory was more than a personal achievement. It was a triumph for the community that had rallied around them. Margaret and James cheered alongside them, their pride evident. The celebration was short-lived. As the crowd thinned, a waiter discreetly handed Ethan a folded note. It read, "Congratulations won't save you. Lucas isn't done." Ethan's hand tightened around the paper, his jaw clenching. He glanced around, catching a glimpse of Lucas slipping out the back exit. The warning sent a chill down his spine, but he resolved not to let fear overshadow their moment of triumph. That night, as the vineyard staff gathered to celebrate their win, disaster struck. Flames erupted in the storage shed, spreading rapidly toward the main vineyard. Panic ensued as everyone scrambled to contain the fire. Ethan and Sophia rushed into the chaos, shouting orders and pulling people to safety. The scene was a blur of smoke, heat, and desperation. It took hours to bring the blaze under control, and when the smoke finally cleared, the damage was devastating. The shed, along with several rows of vines, was reduced to charred ruins. The loss was immense, not just in terms of property, but the emotional toll it took on everyone involved. As investigators combed through the wreckage, evidence pointed unmistakably to arson. Lucas's name surfaced once again, but proving his involvement would be a lengthy battle. "We can't let this break us," Sophia said, her voice firm, despite the tears in her eyes. "Phoenix Blend rose from the ashes once. We'll do it again." Ethan nodded, though his heart felt heavy. This isn't just about us anymore. It's about everyone who believed in us. The community rallied around them once more, offering labor, supplies, and unwavering support. Their resilience was tested, but their determination burned brighter than ever. Lucas's sabotage didn't go unnoticed. A security camera from a neighboring property captured footage of his associates near the vineyard on the night of the fire. The evidence was damning, and Lucas was arrested in a dramatic raid that brought his scoundrels to light. The trial was a spectacle, with the media covering every twist and turn. Lucas's downfall was swift and public, leaving no doubt about his guilt. For Ethan and Sophia, it was a bittersweet victory. "I wish it didn't have to come to this," Ethan said as they left the courthouse, "but at least he can't hurt anyone else." With Lucas out of the picture, Ethan and Sophia turned their focus back to the vineyard. The rebuilding process was grueling but cathartic, each step a reminder of their strength and the support of their community. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Ethan and Sophia stood together in the middle of the vineyard. The air was thick with the scent of earth and the faint sweetness of ripening grapes. "This place," Ethan said, his voice filled with quiet awe, "it's more than a vineyard. It's home." Sophia leaned her head against his shoulder, and it's ours. No one can take that away. Their triumph at the competition and their resilience in the face of sabotage marked a turning point. The vineyard wasn't just a business. It was a symbol of hope, determination, and community. As they prepared for the next chapter of their journey, Ethan and Sophia knew that their story was far from over. The challenges they had faced only strengthened their resolve. Together, they would continue to build a legacy that would inspire generations to come. The morning after the fire was somber. The once bustling vineyard now bore the scars of destruction, and the acrid scent of smoke lingered in the air. Ethan stood at the edge of the charred field, his hands clenched into fists as he surveyed the damage. The Phoenix Blend vines, their pride and hope, lay in ashes. Sophia approached silently, her face pale but resolute. She slipped her hand into his, and together they faced the broken vineyard. "We'll rebuild," she said softly, her voice trembling with determination. "This isn't the end." Ethan nodded, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "It's just another beginning." Word of the fire spread quickly, and the community's response was overwhelming. People from all corners of Napa Valley arrived at the vineyard, offering their labor, equipment, and words of encouragement. Margaret Hayes, ever the organizer, spearheaded the efforts, ensuring every pair of hands had a task. James, the sommelier, returned with a truckload of donated supplies. "We're not letting a fire stop this dream," he declared, his voice firm. "This vineyard is more than just a business. It's a beacon of hope." Even skeptics who had once doubted Ethan and Sophia's vision came forward, humbled by their resilience and the outpouring of support. The vineyard began to take on a new life, one forged in unity and perseverance. Sophia stepped into a new role during the rebuilding process, her natural charisma and determination shining through. She organized fundraisers and leveraged her connections in the wine industry to secure donations. Her speeches, filled with passion and authenticity, inspired everyone around her. At one event, standing before a crowd of supporters, she spoke from the heart. "This vineyard isn't just about wine. It's about people, about standing together when the odds are against us. The fire may have burned our vines, but it can't touch our spirit." Her words were met with thunderous applause, and even Ethan, standing in the back, couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. The physical labor of rebuilding was grueling, but rewarding. Ethan led the efforts in the fields, his knowledge of the land guiding every decision. He worked alongside volunteers, sharing stories and laughter as they planted new vines. Sophia joined him whenever she could, her hands dirty from soil, but her heart full. Together they reimagined the vineyard, incorporating lessons learned from their struggles. They planted stronger, more resilient vines and implemented eco-friendly techniques to ensure sustainability. Margaret's scientific expertise proved invaluable as she helped design irrigation systems and soil treatments. "We're not just rebuilding," she said with a grin. "We're innovating." Ethan and Sophia's bond grew stronger during this time. The fire had tested their resolve, but it also deepened their connection. Late at night, after the day's work was done, they would sit on the porch, sharing dreams for the future. "We're creating something bigger than ourselves," Sophia mused one evening, her head resting on Ethan's shoulder. "Something that will outlast us." Ethan smiled, his gaze soft. "And we're doing it together." Their relationship, once fraught with uncertainty, now felt unshakable. They were partners in every sense of the word, united by their love for each other and their shared vision. Lucas Chambers' arrest sent shockwaves through Napa Valley. The trial was a public spectacle, with damning evidence of his sabotage presented in court. Witnesses testified about his vendetta, against Ethan and Sophia, painting a picture of a man consumed by envy and spite. As Lucas faced his reckoning, Sophia confronted him one last time. In the sterile confines of the courthouse, she stood before him, her voice steady. "You tried to destroy us, but all you did was make us stronger." Lucas sneered but said nothing, his defeat evident in his hollow gaze. For Sophia, it was a moment of closure, a symbolic end to the chapter of adversity he had brought into their lives. Months of hard work culminated in the reopening of the vineyard. The event was a celebration of resilience and community, attended by everyone who had contributed to the rebuilding efforts. Banners bearing the words, "From ashes we rise," adorned the venue, and glasses of the first batch of the new Phoenix blend were raised in toasts. Ethan addressed the crowd, his voice filled with gratitude. "This vineyard wouldn't exist without each and every one of you. Phoenix Blend isn't just a wine. It's a testament to what we can achieve when we come together." Cheers erupted, and the vineyard buzzed with a renewed sense of purpose. Ethan and Sophia, standing at the heart of it all, felt a profound sense of fulfillment. The reopening also marked a turning point for Sophia's relationship with her family. Richard Bennett, her father, attended the event, his demeanor softened by the evidence of her success. For the first time, he acknowledged her achievements. "You've proven me wrong," he admitted, his voice tinged with regret. "I'm proud of you, Sophia." Sophia's eyes filled with tears, and she embraced him, the weight of years of misunderstanding lifting from her shoulders. It wasn't a perfect reconciliation, but it was a start. As the sun set over the vineyard that evening, Ethan and Sophia stood hand in hand, gazing at the rows of newly planted vines. The journey had been arduous, but they had emerged stronger, their dreams intact. "This isn't the end," Ethan said, his voice filled with quiet determination. "It's just the beginning." Sophia nodded, a smile lighting up her face. "We've built something extraordinary, and we'll keep building." The vineyard, once a barren wasteland, now stood as a testament to their resilience, a legacy of hope and renewal. Months after the vineyard's triumphant reopening, word of Phoenix Blend's unique story began to spread beyond Napa Valley. It wasn't just the taste that captured attention. It was the narrative of resilience, diversity, and innovation that resonated with wine enthusiasts and critics alike. The invitation arrived on a crisp autumn morning, gilded edges glinting in the sunlight. Ethan read it aloud to Sophia as they stood in the vineyard. "We are honored to invite Phoenix Vineyard to the International Wine Exposition in Bordeaux, France." Sophia's eyes widened, and a laugh of disbelief bubbled out of her. "Bordeaux? That's the world stage, Ethan. This is our chance to show them what we've built." Ethan smiled, the weight of their journey reflected in his eyes. "Then, let's give them something to remember." The lead up to the exposition was a whirlwind of activity. Sophia spearheaded the branding efforts, ensuring their presentation captured the essence of their journey. Margaret worked tirelessly on refining the new batches of Phoenix Blend, perfecting the balance of flavors that had made it so distinct. Ethan, meanwhile, focused on ensuring their story was authentically represented. "It's not just about the wine," he told James during one of their strategy meetings. "It's about the people, the land, and the perseverance that brought it to life." The vineyard buzzed with anticipation. Community members who had been part of the rebuilding effort sent well wishes, their pride in Phoenix Blend evident in every heartfelt message. Stepping onto the cobbled streets of Bordeaux, Ethan and Sophia were struck by the city's grandeur. The exposition venue, an ornate hall filled with the finest wines from around the globe, seemed both intimidating and exhilarating. As they set up their booth, Surrounded by prestigious names and towering reputations, Ethan felt a pang of doubt. "Do we really belong here?" he muttered. Sophia placed a hand on his shoulder, her voice steady. "We've earned this, Ethan. Let's show them who we are." Their booth stood out, not for its opulence, but for its authenticity. Photos of the vineyard's transformation lined the walls, accompanied by a simple yet powerful tagline: "From ashes, we rise." The exposition's first day was a blur of introductions, tastings, and storytelling. Sophia charmed attendees with her eloquence, weaving the vineyard's narrative into every interaction. Ethan, though quieter, won people over with his sincerity and passion. A prominent wine critic, Pierre Lafleur, stopped by their booth, his discerning gaze taking in every detail. "Phoenix Blend," he mused, swirling a glass of the wine. "A bold name for a bold wine. Let's see if it lives up to its story." The room seemed to hold its breath as he took a sip. His eyes widened slightly, and a slow smile spread across his face. "Remarkable. Complex, yet harmonious. It's as if the land itself speaks through this wine." Word of his praise spread like wildfire, drawing a steady stream of visitors to their booth. By the end of the day, Phoenix Blend was the talk of the exposition. Amid the success, tensions simmered. Some competitors, threatened by the attention Phoenix Vineyard was receiving, began spreading rumors about their lack of experience and the sob story marketing angle. Ethan overheard a particularly cutting remark during a networking event and bristled. Sophia, ever the diplomat, pulled him aside. "Let them talk," she said firmly. "Our work speaks for itself." But the pressure took its toll. The next day, a shipment of their wine samples arrived damaged, threatening to derail their momentum. Determined not to let it ruin their opportunity, Ethan and Sophia improvised, using the remaining bottles sparingly and focusing on the storytelling aspect of their presentation. The highlight of the exposition was the grand tasting gala, where select wines were showcased before an audience of industry leaders and media. Phoenix Blend was one of the chosen few, a testament to its growing reputation. Sophia took the stage to introduce their wine, her voice steady, despite the nerves coursing through her. Phoenix Blend isn't just a wine. It's a story of perseverance, of community, and of the belief that even in the face of devastation, something beautiful can emerge. The audience erupted in applause, their admiration palpable. When the wine was served, the response was overwhelmingly positive, with several attendees calling it the soul of Napa Valley. By the end of the exposition, Phoenix Vineyard had secured several international partnerships and distribution deals. Their booth won the Best Storytelling Award, a recognition of the authenticity and impact of their narrative. Pierre Lafleur, who had become a vocal supporter, offered to feature Phoenix Blend in his upcoming publication. "The world needs more stories like yours," he told Ethan and Sophia. "It reminds us why we fell in love with wine in the first place." The flight back to Napa Valley felt surreal. Ethan gazed out of the window, the clouds below, mirroring the sense of elevation he felt. "We did it," he said quietly. Sophia smiled, resting her head against his shoulder. "This is just the beginning." Back at the vineyard, the community awaited their return with a celebration. Banners and cheers greeted them as they stepped off the plane. Their success, a shared victory. The global recognition of Phoenix Blend brought opportunities and challenges. Demand for their wine soared, necessitating expansion and innovation. Ethan and Sophia, while grateful for their success, remained committed to their principles. "This vineyard was built on resilience and community," Ethan said during a team meeting. No matter how far we go, we stay true to that. Their success also inspired other small vineyards, many of whom reached out for advice and collaboration. Sophia took the lead in organizing a network of independent winemakers, fostering a spirit of unity and mutual support. As the vineyard continued to thrive, Ethan and Sophia reflected on the journey that had brought them here. The International Wine Exposition had not only solidified their place in the industry, but had also affirmed the power of their vision. Standing amidst the rows of thriving vines, Ethan spoke with quiet conviction. "We started this journey to prove that from ashes, something extraordinary could rise, and we've done that." Sophia nodded, her gaze filled with hope. But the story doesn't end here. This is just the prologue to something even greater. The echo of Phoenix Vineyard's success resonated far beyond Napa Valley, inspiring communities near and far. Amid the acclaim and burgeoning opportunities, Ethan and Sophia felt a new sense of purpose taking root, a call to use their platform not just to succeed, but to uplift others. One evening, as the sun set over the vineyard, painting the sky in hues of gold and amber, Ethan turned to Sophia. "We've shown what's possible," he said, "but there are so many who don't even have the chance to try. We need to do more." Sophia smiled, a spark of determination lighting her eyes. "Then, let's give them the tools to dream." The idea for the Phoenix Cooperative began to take shape, a program aimed at empowering small-scale farmers and winemakers through shared resources, mentorship, and innovation. Ethan envisioned a network where growers could access expertise and technology to improve yields and quality, while Sophia focused on creating a platform to market their unique products. The cooperative wasn't just about economics. It was about fostering resilience and creativity. Margaret, always eager to contribute, volunteered to lead workshops on sustainable farming techniques, while James offered to teach the art of pairing wine with culture and story. Sophia reached out to her contacts in the wine industry, leveraging their newfound recognition to attract support. "This isn't charity," she told a skeptical distributor during a pitch meeting. "It's investment in people, in stories, in the future of winemaking." The first members of the cooperative came from neighboring communities. Farmers who had once viewed Ethan with suspicion now saw him as an ally. One of the first to join was Antonio Rivera, a second-generation grower struggling to keep his family's small vineyard afloat. "I didn't think people like us had a place in this industry," Antonio admitted during a meeting. "But if you can rise from ashes, maybe we can too." Ethan placed a hand on his shoulder. "We all have something to offer. Together, we're stronger." The cooperative's reach soon expanded, drawing participants from other regions. Each brought their unique challenges and aspirations, creating a vibrant tapestry of stories and experiences. The idea for a collaborative wine, Unity Blend, emerged during a brainstorming session with the cooperative members. Each vineyard would contribute grapes, blending their distinct characteristics into a single harmonious creation. The wine would symbolize the power of collective effort and shared purpose. As harvest season approached, the cooperative members gathered at Phoenix Vineyard to begin the process. The scene was a celebration of diversity and unity, with laughter and camaraderie filling the air as farmers worked side by side. Sophia, watching from a distance, felt a swell of pride. "This is what it's all about," she said to Margaret. "Not just surviving, but thriving together." The cooperative's rapid growth brought challenges. Some established players in the wine industry viewed it as a threat, spreading rumors that the initiative was diluting the market's prestige. Ethan and Sophia faced mounting pressure to scale back, with some critics even questioning their motives. At a heated industry panel, Sophia addressed the backlash head-on. "Wine has always been about connection," she said firmly. "Connection to the land, to the people, to the stories behind every bottle. The cooperative isn't about competition. It's about creating a future where everyone has a voice." The audience erupted in applause, with several attendees pledging their support for the initiative. As the cooperative flourished, its impact became evident. Antonio's vineyard, once on the brink of closure, began producing some of the region's most sought-after grapes. A young winemaker, Maylene, who had struggled to find her footing in the industry, launched her first solo label with the cooperative's backing. During a celebratory dinner at the vineyard, May raised a glass. "To Phoenix Cooperative," she said, her voice filled with emotion, "and to the people who believed in us when no one else did." The success of the cooperative ignited conversations about inclusivity and innovation within the wine industry. Ethan and Sophia became advocates for systemic change, urging larger corporations to adopt DARE practices and support small producers. Their efforts culminated in a historic summit hosted at Phoenix Vineyard, where industry leaders, farmers, and policymakers gathered to discuss the future of winemaking. The event marked a turning point, with several key players committing to initiatives inspired by the cooperative. As the cooperative thrived, Ethan and Sophia continued to evolve individually and as partners. Ethan, once reluctant to step into the spotlight, embraced his role as a mentor and leader. Sophia, driven by her passion for storytelling, began documenting the journeys of cooperative members, turning their stories into a powerful anthology titled Roots and Resilience. Their relationship deepened through shared purpose and mutual respect. "We've built something incredible," Sophia said one evening as they walked through the vineyard. "But the best part is doing it with you." Ethan smiled, pulling her close. "Here's to building more." The debut of Unity Blend was a moment of triumph, celebrated with a gala at Phoenix Vineyard. The wine's rich, layered flavor captured the essence of its creator's shared vision, earning praise from critics and consumers alike. During his toast, Ethan spoke from the heart. "Unity Blend isn't just a wine. It's a testament to what we can achieve when we come together. Each bottle carries a piece of every person who made it possible. This is our story, and it's just the beginning." As Unity Blend gained national recognition, its success fueled further growth for the cooperative. Sophia and Ethan used the proceeds to fund scholarships for aspiring winemakers and expand outreach programs, ensuring the initiative's sustainability. Looking out over the vineyard, now thriving beyond their wildest dreams, Ethan reflected on the journey that had brought them here. "We've come full circle," he said softly, "from ashes to something extraordinary." Sophia nodded, her gaze fixed on the horizon. "And there's still so much more to do." The vines at Phoenix Vineyard had flourished, and so had the love between Ethan and Sophia. After years of struggle, growth, and triumph, they were finally standing at the precipice of their greatest personal milestone, their wedding. The vineyard, once a barren land known as the Dead Zone, had been transformed into a lush, thriving testament to perseverance and hope, much like their relationship. It was a warm autumn morning, the sun casting its golden glow over the rows of grapevines that stretched far into the horizon. The day was perfect, not just for a wedding, but for the new chapter in their lives. The scent of freshly bloomed flowers mixed with the earthy aroma of crushed grapes, a reminder of how far they had come. Sophia stood on the balcony of the newly constructed villa at the edge of the vineyard, her eyes taking in the sight before her. She was overcome with emotion. The land, the people, the stories, all had come together to create something truly magical. And now, she would marry Ethan, the man who had been by her side through it all. She turned and walked back into the room, where her bridesmaids were bustling about, adjusting her dress and preparing her for the ceremony. Margaret, who had been more of a mother figure than just a friend, was helping Sophia with the finishing touches. "You look beautiful, Sophia," Margaret said softly, adjusting a lock of her hair. Sophia smiled, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "I feel like I'm dreaming," she whispered. "After everything we've been through, it feels almost too perfect." Margaret took her hand. "You deserve this, all of it. And Ethan is a lucky man." On the other side of the vineyard, Ethan stood by the oak tree where he had first declared his commitment to the land and to Sophia. His reflection was one of calmness and satisfaction. Over the years, he had fought for this moment, both professionally and personally. The journey had not been easy, but the love and partnership they shared were worth every struggle. He wore a simple yet elegant suit, his expression a mixture of awe and quiet joy. As he gazed out at the guests arriving, he couldn't help but smile at the life they had built together. It wasn't just the vineyard or the wines that had become symbols of their success. It was their commitment to each other and the community that had truly thrived. James, who had become one of Ethan's closest friends, approached him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You're about to marry the love of your life, my friend. It's incredible to see how far you've come." Ethan chuckled, glancing at James. "We've come a long way, haven't we?" "You've built something beautiful here," James replied. "But it's your love for Sophia that made all of this possible." As the ceremony began, the guests, family, friends, and members of the Phoenix Cooperative gathered beneath the archway draped in ivy and flowers. The vineyard, still heavy with the rich scent of the harvest, provided the perfect backdrop for the celebration. The sky above was a brilliant blue, and the air was crisp with the excitement of the day. Sophia walked down the aisle, her eyes locked on Ethan, who stood at the altar, looking more handsome than she had ever imagined. The soft strains of music played in the background, blending harmoniously with the sounds of nature. Every step she took was a reminder of how far they had come and how much this day meant to them both. As she reached the altar, Ethan took her hands in his voice trembling slightly as he spoke the words he had been practicing for months. "Sophia, I promised myself I would never give up. But it wasn't just for the vineyard. It was for you. For us. You are my everything." Sophia smiled through the tears that glistened in her eyes. "And you are mine. I've learned so much from you, Ethan. Not just about love, but about resilience, about strength. You've shown me what it means to fight for what matters." They exchanged vows, each word echoing with the depth of their commitment, not only to each other, but to the journey they had undertaken together. It was a pledge to continue building, not just a life, but a future filled with love, growth, and possibility. The reception was nothing short of magical. Long tables were set out under strings of fairy lights, with the backdrop of the vineyard casting its rich green shadow as the sun dipped below the horizon. Guests sipped on glasses of Phoenix blend, their laughter mingling with the sound of clinking glasses. Margaret, who had officiated the ceremony, stood to make a toast. "To Ethan and Sophia," she began, her voice filled with emotion. "You've both shown us what true partnership looks like. Through the struggles and triumphs, you've built something extraordinary together. Here's to a future filled with even more love, growth, and unforgettable moments." Everyone raised their glasses in unison, the clinking of crystal serving as a symbol of the strength of their bond. Ethan stood up next, his heart swelling with gratitude. "We couldn't have done this without all of you. The community, the cooperative, our friends, each of you has played a part in making this dream a reality. I don't just stand here as a man marrying the woman of my dreams. I stand here as part of something much larger. This vineyard, this journey, it belongs to all of us. Sophia's eyes shone as she looked at him, her voice steady as she spoke. Ethan, we've built something beautiful together, and I can't wait to see what the future holds. Here's to love, to resilience, and to the future we will create, side by side. As the night wore on, the guests danced beneath the stars, their laughter filling the air, a perfect end to a day that celebrated love, legacy, and the incredible journey of Ethan and Sophia. When the music slowed and the night began to wind down, Ethan and Sophia shared a quiet moment together, away from the celebration. The vineyard stood before them, now a symbol of their love and everything they had built. Sophia leaned her head on Ethan's shoulder. I think this is just the beginning, don't you? Ethan smiled, his heart full of pride and anticipation for the future. This is only the beginning, he agreed. We've come this far, and we're just getting started. Together, they looked out over the vineyard, their legacy, knowing that the future was as boundless as the vines stretching into the horizon. The years that followed their wedding were filled with growth, both personal and professional. Ethan and Sophia continued to lead Phoenix Vineyard, expanding the cooperative and supporting small-scale farmers across Napa Valley and beyond. Their story, the story of resilience, hope, and love, became an inspiration to countless others, and Phoenix Vineyard became a symbol of what could be achieved when people came together, united by a common purpose. In the years to come, Sophia and Ethan's names would be forever etched in the history of Napa Valley as the couple who not only transformed a vineyard, but an entire industry. Their legacy lived on, not just in the wines they created, but in the countless lives they touched through their commitment to community, collaboration, and love. And so, the story of Phoenix Vineyard and the story of Ethan and Sophia would live on, a testament to the power of love, resilience, and the land that had given them everything. Years had passed since the moment Ethan and Sophia had first set foot on the barren land of Phoenix Vineyard, a place once dismissed as the dead zone. Their vineyard had flourished beyond anyone's expectations, not just because of the wine they produced, but because of the impact they had made on the community around them. The vineyard had become a symbol of resilience, a testament to hard work, dedication, and the belief that with the right partnerships, even the most impossible dreams could become a reality. Now, standing amidst the rows of vines that had become a family to them, Ethan and Sophia felt an overwhelming sense of pride. Their love for the land, their love for each other, and their commitment to the people who had supported them had created something enduring, a legacy that was about to be passed on to the next generation. Sophia stood beside Ethan, looking at the vineyard that had grown from the ashes of their hardships. Her thoughts drifted back to the early days when everything had seemed uncertain, the battles they had fought against prejudice, sabotage, and the ever-looming specter of doubt. Now, those struggles seemed distant, almost like a different life. The vineyard was thriving, the wines were renowned, and their community had flourished alongside them. But there was a new challenge on the horizon. Their daughter, Emma, had grown into a strong, intelligent young woman, eager to continue the work they had started. The time had come to pass the torch to her. The passing of the torch wasn't an easy decision. Ethan and Sophia had poured their hearts into Phoenix Vineyard, and the idea of stepping back, even in part, was daunting. But they both knew that Emma, with her innate understanding of the land and her drive to innovate, was ready to carry their legacy forward. Sitting in the office overlooking the vineyard, Ethan and Sophia shared a quiet conversation, their hands intertwined. "Do you think she's ready?" Ethan asked, his voice thick with emotion. Sophia smiled, her eyes filled with a quiet confidence. "She's always been ready. Emma's not just our daughter, Ethan. She's the future of Phoenix Vineyard. She's the next chapter in our story." Ethan nodded, though he couldn't shake the feeling that their journey was coming to an end. He had been the one to plant the first vine, to fight for every inch of soil, and to bring life to what had once been a forgotten piece of land. It had been his dream, his vision. But now, as he looked at his daughter, he realized that the vineyard was no longer just his dream. It was Emma's too. "She has the passion, the vision, and the heart," Ethan continued. I hope we've given her enough." Sophia squeezed his hand. "We've given her more than enough. We've given her everything we have, and that's all we can do." Emma had always been fascinated by the vineyard. As a child, she had run through the rows of vines, her small hands brushing against the leaves, imagining a world where she could help her parents bring their dreams to life. But as she grew older, she had come to understand the weight of what Phoenix Vineyard represented, not just to her family, but to the entire community. She had spent countless hours learning about viticulture, studying new techniques, and researching sustainable farming practices. Emma was passionate about the environment, and she wanted to ensure that the vineyard not only thrived, but did so in a way that honored the land that had given so much. As she stood in the vineyard, looking out over the fields her parents had transformed, Emma felt a deep sense of responsibility. This was her inheritance, more than just land or wine, but a legacy of hard work, resilience, and community. It was now her turn to carry that forward. She had been studying abroad, gaining experience in the global wine industry, and now it was time to return home. The future of Phoenix Vineyard would soon be in her hands. But she knew that there was still much to learn, still many challenges ahead. Her parents had built something remarkable, but Emma had her own ideas, her own vision for what the vineyard could become. She wasn't content to simply maintain what had been established. She wanted to take it to new heights. She dreamed of expanding the vineyard's reach, exploring new markets, and introducing innovative methods of sustainable farming that could set Phoenix Vineyard apart in the global wine industry. But even with all her ambition, Emma knew she couldn't do it alone. She needed the wisdom of her parents, the support of the community, and the strength of the land that had been nurtured over the years. The day of the vineyard's annual harvest celebration arrived, and it was an event that had grown in importance over the years. It had become a time not just to celebrate the harvest, but to reflect on the hard work that had gone into building Phoenix Vineyard into what it was today. It was a celebration of the land, the community, and the future. This year, however, there was a special reason to celebrate. Ethan and Sophia had invited their closest friends, the members of the cooperative, and the people who had supported them through the years. And in the center of it all was Emma, standing tall and proud, ready to step into the role her parents had prepared for her. As Ethan and Sophia stood before the gathered crowd, they called Emma to the front. The crowd fell silent, watching as father and daughter exchanged a look that spoke volumes, a look of love, trust, and pride. Ethan spoke first, his voice steady but tinged with emotion. "We started this journey together, Sophia and I, building something from nothing. But now, it's time to pass the torch to the next generation. Our daughter, Emma, has spent years learning, growing, and preparing for this moment. She's ready to take Phoenix Vineyard into the future." Sophia's voice was soft, but filled with conviction. "We couldn't be prouder of Emma. She's not just our daughter. She's the future of everything we've worked for." Phoenix Vineyard will continue to grow, and with Emma at the helm, we know it will be in good hands. Emma stepped forward, her heart racing. She felt the weight of the moment, the responsibility of the vineyard, and the legacy that she was about to carry forward. "Thank you," she said, her voice strong yet full of emotion. "This vineyard, this family, this community, everything you've built means the world to me. I promise to honor the legacy you've created while building something that will carry your vision into the future." The crowd erupted in applause, and Emma's heart swelled with gratitude. She could feel the weight of the torch being passed to her, but it was not a burden. It was a gift she would cherish, nurture, and grow. As the celebration continued into the night, Ethan and Sophia watched with pride as Emma mingled with the guests, speaking with the farmers, the wine critics, and the community members who had helped Phoenix Vineyard thrive. It was clear to them that the future of the vineyard was in good hands. Emma had inherited their passion, their dedication, and their love for the land. The next day, as they walked through the vineyard together, Ethan looked at Sophia. "We've done our part," he said, his voice filled with pride. "Now, it's her turn." Sophia smiled, her hand resting on his arm. "And she'll make us proud, just as we've always made her proud." Phoenix Vineyard continued to thrive under Emma's leadership. The innovations she brought to the vineyard were nothing short of groundbreaking, and soon, Phoenix Blend became one of the most sought-after wines in the world. Emma worked tirelessly to ensure that Phoenix Vineyard not only remained true to its roots, but also adapted to the changing world. Ethan and Sophia, though retired, remained an integral part of the vineyard, mentoring Emma and ensuring that their values, love, resilience, and community remained at the heart of everything they did. And so, Phoenix Vineyard, a place born from adversity, continued to grow and flourish, a legacy of love and hard work that would live on for generations to come. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the lush rows of vines, Emma stood at the edge of Phoenix Vineyard, gazing at the sprawling landscape that had been her parents' legacy. She could almost hear the voices of Ethan and Sophia, whispering their guidance and wisdom, urging her to keep pushing forward, no matter the obstacles. It had been 5 years since the passing of her father, Ethan, and the world felt different now. The vineyard was thriving under her leadership, but there were times when the weight of the responsibility threatened to overwhelm her. Yet, in those quiet moments of reflection, she always found solace in the knowledge that what they had built together, the vineyard, the community, the spirit of resilience, was something that could never be taken away. Emma took a deep breath, inhaling the earthy scent of the soil that had given so much to her family. She felt a sense of gratitude wash over her, a deep appreciation for the land that had nurtured not only the vines, but the dreams of everyone who had believed in Phoenix Vineyard. It was more than just a vineyard. It was a symbol of what could be achieved when people refused to give up, when they fought through every adversity, every setback, and emerged stronger on the other side. As she walked through the vineyard, she noticed the familiar faces of the workers who had been with her since the beginning. The community that her parents had built and nurtured was still strong, still united by their shared history and commitment to the land. It was something that Emma had always been proud of. She knew that the vineyard wasn't just a business, it was a family. Emma paused at the spot where Ethan had once planted the first vine, the vine that had started it all. She smiled softly, her hand resting on the vine's gnarled trunk, the memory of her father's voice filling her mind. "Every vine tells a story, Emma," Ethan had said, his rough hands covered in dirt as he worked beside her. "Some vines are tough, Others need more care, but all of them are worth the effort, just like us. We've all got our roots, our histories, but we're all capable of growing, of blossoming into something beautiful. Emma ran her fingers along the vine's twisted branches, remembering her father's words. His spirit was here, in every vine, every grape, every bottle of wine that left this vineyard. She couldn't help but feel that he was still guiding her, still watching over the land that he had fought so hard to preserve. It wasn't just the locals who recognized Phoenix Vineyard's impact anymore. The world had begun to take notice. Phoenix Blend was now known in wine circles far beyond Napa Valley. Critics from around the globe praised the wines, not only for their unique flavors, but for the story behind them, the story of resilience, innovation, and the transformative power of nature. At a prestigious international wine expo, Phoenix Blend was awarded the Best of the Year accolade, an achievement that seemed impossible when they had first started. Emma was there to accept the award, her heart swelling with pride as she stood on stage, holding the trophy in her hand. Her eyes swept over the audience of influential wine critics, investors, and enthusiasts, and she felt a surge of gratitude. She knew her parents would have been proud, but she also knew that this was just the beginning. "Thank you," Emma said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "Thank you for believing in us, for believing in Phoenix Vineyard. This is more than just wine. It's a testament to the hard work of everyone involved, from the workers in the vineyard to the community that has supported us every step of the way. My parents, Ethan and Sophia, always believed in the power of resilience. This is their legacy. This is our legacy." The applause that followed was thunderous. As Emma stood there taking it all in, she realized that the vineyard's success had never just been about the wine. It had been about something bigger, about the unity it had fostered, the change it had inspired, and the hope it had given to so many people. And now, it was her turn to carry that torch forward. As Phoenix Vineyard grew, so too did Emma's commitment to giving back. She had always believed that success should be shared, and she had made it a priority to ensure that the people who had supported her parents, and now her, would benefit from the vineyard's prosperity. In collaboration with local farmers and agricultural experts, Emma established the Phoenix Foundation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping small farmers adopt sustainable farming practices. The foundation provided training, resources, and financial support to those who were struggling to keep their farms afloat in an increasingly competitive market. It was Emma's way of paying forward the generosity and support she had received over the years. The foundation also worked with schools and universities to offer scholarships to students interested in pursuing careers in agriculture and viticulture. Emma wanted to ensure that the next generation of farmers, winemakers, and innovators had the tools they needed to succeed. She wanted them to know that their dreams, just like her parents' dreams, were possible, even in the face of adversity. Phoenix Vineyard's success had ripple effects far beyond Napa Valley. Emma's innovative approach to farming and winemaking had caught the attention of environmentalists, sustainability advocates, and wine enthusiasts worldwide. The vineyard became a model for sustainable farming practices, with Emma invited to speak at international conferences and forums on agriculture and environmental conservation. Phoenix Blend was soon being exported to countries around the world, and with each new market, Emma's mission expanded. She wasn't just producing wine. She was advocating for a future where the wine industry could thrive while also protecting the environment. She worked tirelessly to promote eco-friendly farming techniques, reducing the vineyard's carbon footprint and ensuring that the land would continue to give back for generations to come. As the years went by, Emma found herself not just managing the vineyard, but becoming an influential figure in the global wine industry. She had become a beacon of hope for farmers and winemakers who wanted to make a difference, showing them that it was possible to balance tradition with innovation, sustainability with growth. One evening, as Emma sat on the porch of the vineyard house, watching the sun dip behind the hills, she thought about the journey that had brought her here. The struggles, the setbacks, the triumphs, and the moments of doubt, everything had led to this. Phoenix Vineyard was not just a place. It was a living, breathing testament to everything her family had worked for. And as she watched the workers gather in the fields, as she looked at the vibrant vines stretching out before her, Emma knew that her parents' legacy was secure. Phoenix Vineyard would continue to grow, to inspire, and to remind the world that with determination, vision, and heart, anything was possible. Her parents had planted the seeds. She had nurtured them. And now she would continue to carry their dream into the future. And so, the story of Phoenix Vineyard, of Ethan and Sophia's resilience, of Emma's leadership, would live on, an enduring legacy of love, perseverance, and the belief that with every new generation, the possibility of change and growth was always within reach. In the quiet of the evening, Emma uncorked a bottle of Phoenix Blend and poured herself a glass. She raised it in the air, toasting to the future, to her parents, to the land, and to the community that had supported them all. The invisible hands that once pulled us down now lift us up one by one, she whispered, her voice filled with gratitude. And with that, the story of Phoenix Vineyard continued, written in the vines, in the wine, and in the hearts of all who had been touched by its legacy. As we close this chapter of our story, I want to take a moment to reflect on the incredible journey we've shared together. The resilience, the struggles, and the triumphs we've witnessed, these are the moments that shape who we are and the world we build together. But this isn't the end. It's just the beginning. What do you think of Emma's journey and the legacy of Phoenix Vineyard? How has the story of Ethan and Sophia's perseverance inspired you? I would love to hear your thoughts and reflections. Leave a comment below. Your voice matters, and together, we can continue to bring these stories to life. And if you're enjoying this journey, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. There's so much more to come, and I wouldn't want you to miss the next chapter. The story of Phoenix Vineyard and its enduring legacy is far from over. Stay tuned, because the best is yet to come.